Chapter 73 to 78. Yawn. Oni-chan? Iliasville responds to me exactly like Raphael would, so she sounds exactly the same. However, I can feel much more emotion from those words than I normally would. Or rather, she sounds a little tired. Rimuru Iliasville? Is everything alright? I think so. Quick scans show that everything is okay. Deep scans are showing up green as well. I think it worked? Did it work? Iliasville replies to my question with a worried tone. Rimuru, I don't know, you tell me. I mean, you sound different? It's not your voice as it sounds the same as Raphael, but you sound more alive? I guess. She doesn't say anything for a few seconds, but then I suddenly hear a sniffle. Sniff. Rimuru Iliasville. I feel so happy. I can finally truly think for myself. I can finally feel all these different emotions. Iliasville continues to cry tears of happiness while I just listen. She wasn't bawling her eyes out or anything. She was just silently crying to herself. I wanted to say something, but I couldn't think of anything to say, except one thing. Rimuru. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for putting it off for so long. I'm sorry I couldn't come up with a solution for your ego problem for so long. I'm sorry that you had to stay like an emotionless machine until I gave you a name. There were many things I feel sorry for, most of them stemming from my inherent laziness. So I just said, I'm sorry. And Iliasville understood everything I was trying to say. No, it's not all your fault. You were the one that gave me the solution I needed. You were the one that named me. Without you, nothing would have happened. And for that. Thank you, Oni-chan. She tries to stop me from blaming myself. She didn't mean to blame anyone when she said that she could finally think for herself, after all. And at the end, she called me Oni-chan. Inhales. My life is now complete. Iliasville took a little bit longer to calm down completely from her evolution into a monus. Thinking it's time, I asked her the big question. Rimuru, so? What happened? From the records, apparently things went like this. And so, Iliasville began her explanation. First off, the ego was successfully taken from Raphael, Lord of Wisdom, and integrated into Ilia, Heaven's Feel. Unfortunately, as a result, Raphael became broken. Or rather, it can't be used. Ultimate skills are the skills at the very top of the list. They control the laws of the world itself. And who would have guessed, you can't control the laws of the world unless you have a mind that can comprehend that shit in the first place. Whoa. Therefore, Beldanava created ultimate skills with meager computational abilities as support for the user to control the skills properly. And since I took Raphael's ego. Rest in peace, Raphael. You have served me well. Specifically, you saved me from looking like a fucking dumbass many times. Well, the good news is that Manus Iliasville has completely inherited the properties of both Raphael and Ilia. Meaning Iliasville is a fusion of both ultimate skills in their entirety. Thank God. In fact, none of this would have been possible if Ilia, Heaven's Feel, wasn't an ultimate skill specializing in the soul, since skills are also extensions of the soul in a way. I'm also thinking that I was only able to use Ilia, Heaven's Feel, in its entirety without any ego supporting it because it's a gift from the meat bun Rob himself. There's also the fact that I'm quite literally the fusion of two souls, so maybe that helped as well? And also my soul itself ascended because of the effect of Ilia, Heaven's Feel. Who knows really? Oni-chan, I think I can do something with Raphael. But I'm not entirely sure, so dash. Rimuru, sure, go ahead. Iliasville asks me for permission to do something with Raphael, but without bothering to hear her out, I accept and let her do whatever she wants. Why did I do that? Well, half the reason is that she called me Oni-chan. I'm joking. It's actually 3/4 of the reason. But ignore that. B, but it might get erased, Anne. Rimuru, well, you said that you're the fusion of both skills, right? Then it shouldn't affect me even if we lose Raphael. Besides, you're like my daughter-sister hybrid. Why wouldn't I trust you? Oh, Oni-chan. You can't say things like that so suddenly. I can imagine Iliasville fidgeting around in her seat with a blush on her face. Goddamn, this is nearing Makoto levels of cuteness. Imagine what it would be like if I could see her. Rimuru, now that I think about it, I kinda wanna see you. Really, Oniai-chan? Rimuru Umu. Of course, I do. Having a doting cute little sister is every weeb's dream. I mean, unless you already have a sister in real life. Then they're just annoying. But every man dreams of a cute brocon sister. And then when they get into an awkward situation, accidents happen and they might just end up naked and hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Oniai-chan? No. Bad Rimuru. You must never lewd the lowly. Rimuru nothing. If you say so. Then, I'll get started, alright? I just nod my head and immediately Iliasville gets to work. A bunch of shit happens within me that I have no clue about, and before long. Ka-ching! A golden glowing crystal ball the size of my palm pops out of my body, landing on a cushion next to me. Sound effects and everything. Rimuru. Nanny Kore? And so Iliasville comes to the rescue again by informing my dumbass self. What she did was quite simple, really. She contained the broken Raphael and turned it into a physical object. A skill orb, if you will. Rimuru, oh, Iliasville is amazing. I praise her while holding the Raphael skill orb in my slime tentacle hand thingies. Ehe. I'm just imagining Iliasville shyly scratching the back of her head with an embarrassed but happy expression. And if she looks anything like the person I named her after. Damn, I really want to see her. Right, let's do this then. This happened in the series, so it should happen easily here. Let's try it out. Enhanced replication. Magicules flow out of me in the form of black mist before turning into an exact clone of me. What are you doing, Oniai-chan? Rimuru, I really want to see you, Iliasville. So. I invoke, Manus, Iliasville. True, Iliasville is indeed a separate entity and can work by herself, but Iliasville is my skill in the end. I can use it to its full capabilities. But I'm not doing anything complicated. I just carefully shift her into the replication clone in front of me, being extra careful I don't mess anything up. After an entire 5 minutes of doing so, the process completes and my clone shines like a fucking flashbang, blinding me. Rimuru GAH. It's like looking into the fucking sun. The light dies down. I open my eyes again and look at the result. And I have to say, I am completely satisfied with my work. Taupe continued. MP3. Ilia lights up like a fucking magical girl transformation and completely blinds me. How do people watch those transformations without absolutely mutilating their eyes? I immediately chalk it up to bullshit anime logic and chuck that thought process out the window. What's even weirder is that even my universal sense couldn't pierce through the veil of light, preventing me from seeing anything that's happening. Universal, my ass. But alas, anime laws are anime laws, and I am unable to break them. The light dies down and in front of me is a small girl with closed eyes. A loli. Fuck yes. She has healthy pale skin and platinum blonde hair. Her black eyelashes flutter open, revealing her large ruby pink eyes. Now, there's some good news and some bad news. The good news is that she's properly wearing clothes. The bad news is those said clothes is a pink magical girl outfit. No, hold on, that isn't bad news. But she looks exactly like I hoped she would. She stares at me for a moment before she slowly looks down at her hands and then moving to the rest of her body. She begins lightly touching various parts like her arms, waist, legs, skirt and so on. Her expression didn't change at all. But the moment she looked up again back at me, her eyes shine and a smile grace her small lips. Iliasville Oniichaan. She leaps forward and tackles my slime form with open arms. I quickly increase the size of my body and easily catch her. Rimuru Ilia. Iliasville Fufu, Oniai-chan, you're so soft. She continues to squeeze the ever-living hell out of me while rubbing her cheeks against me. After trying to separate her from my body and failing, I just sigh in relief, I just sigh in defeat and accept her actions. And because she has a body, I can hear her real voice instead of using the world system to talk to me like Raphael. She sounds exactly like I thought she would. Slam. Mikoto Rimuru. The front door slams open and a worried Mikoto runs through. Mikoto, I felt some magicules and then a bright light flashed through the windows. Mikoto looks around worriedly, quickly scanning for any hidden presence. Finding no one except a foreign presence nearby, a familiar once, she looks in my direction. Immediately, her eyes narrow and her expression of worry shifts to one of scorn, like she's looking at some new breed of scum. Mikoto. Hentai. Saying that she slowly closes the door in front of her. Ah, my social life is over. A while later. I calmly explain the situation to Mikoto, who decides to sit down on the couch opposite of me. I am now in human form. She's no longer looking at me like I'm some shit, but she still has a little suspicion in her eyes. Rimuru, and that's how we ended up alone while I was getting hugged by Ilya, who appeared out of nowhere in a magical girl costume. It's better than it sounds. Trust me. Mikoto sigh is that so? Mikoto sighs while rubbing the bridge of her nose, her bracelet chiming from her movements. She thankfully believes my story, and no further drama erupts from this event. Although it did take a couple of hours to convince her, it didn't help that Ilya never let go of my arm throughout the whole conversation, but here we are. Mikoto looks at Ilya and opens her mouth. Mikoto so, Ilyasvil, yo dash. Ilya, call me Ilya. I have memories of your interactions with Onyai-chan. You don't need to act so distantly. Come to think of it, I've also been calling her Ilya without realizing it. Mikoto, okay, Ilya. Mikoto replies with a warm smile and continues what she was just saying. Mikoto, you're a Manas, correct? Ilya, a spiritual life form, in a way. Mikoto, right, so, why did you appear like that? Mikoto is asking why she appeared as a loli in a magical girl costume since she should have no solid form in the first place. Ilya, But those were Onyai-chan's desires though? Ilya replies to Mikoto's question with an innocent expression, but I immediately break out into a cold sweat. Fuck. Mikoto snaps her head in my direction with an explain now look, to which I happily comply. Rimuru, wait, hold on a moment. True, those were my desires in a way. But that's only because I named Ilya after a character from my old world. It was simply the desire for her form to take after her. After several more minutes of explaining and trying to convince her, Mikoto once again sighs. Mikoto, well, I thought there was a reason behind it. I didn't think you'd be into that sort of stuff. True. I don't hate it, but it's not like I called myself a magical girl fan in my past life. The only magical girl anime I saw was Prisma Ilya, and that's it. Mikoto looks at me before shifting her attention to Ilya. Or more specifically, her outfit. Then, after staring for a few seconds, her face explodes in a shade of red and she looks down while fidgeting. Listening closely, you could hear her muttering words under her breath. Mikoto whispering Rimuru, idiot, pervert, you shouldn't ask such things from me. Ilya and I just nod our heads, both of us having the same thoughts in my head. So cute. And so I got a Manas who also is my new little sister. That night, Mikoto, Ilya and I all slept together. Don't get me wrong, Mikoto was ready to kill me. No way she would willingly let me sleep with her. Of course, I had to go into slime form for this and Mikoto only accepted because Ilya just so happens to be a masterful user of the puppy eyes technique. Shizu has a competitor. Overnight, Ilya fully monopolized me by hugging my slime body with both arms. But after everyone fell asleep, Mikoto ended up hugging me as well in her sleep. Needless to say, the next morning was quite a wake-up call. Mikoto, kaya. Slap. I ended up with a red hand mark on my cheek. Obviously, I took no damage from that slap and it didn't hurt one bit, but anime laws do be like that, I guess. Mikoto apologized with a lap pillow later too. Worth. Testing with Ilya at the experimental site let me know that she could transform her body into a total of 3 separate forms. One is her normal Ilya form, the second is her magical girl Ilya form and the third is her dress of heaven form, each one letting her use more of her power than the last. She spends most of the time in her normal Ilya form. It's the only form that lets her choose what clothes to wear, after all. Ilya, my other forms are for special occasions, got that? She said that while pouting after I asked her why she doesn't spend her time in her other forms. She also doesn't have access to any of my personal skills except for her own as Manas Ilyasvil, besides some passive ones like Universal Sense and my resistances. Fortunately, I still have access to Manas Ilyasvil, although to a lesser degree. Well, if she temporarily fuses back with me, we can fight to our full potential. Another weird thing is that her personality is a bit different from the Ilya I named her after, both her Khalid Liner and Stay Night versions. Only a bit. Probably a side effect of her fusion with Raphael. Well, this is good. This means she's her own person than just someone from an anime. Anyway, the day after her birth and her testing session with Makoto and I, we decided to reveal her to everyone in Avalon in a big announcement. Rimuru, so yeah, she's my little sister. Treat her well. I say so while standing on a big stage patting Ilya's head next to me. Everyone erupted in roars of cheers and happiness. Ilya was embarrassed at the whole ordeal though. Shina quickly kidnapped her afterwards and I only saw her again later with dead eyes and a bunch of clothes surrounding her. Rimuru. What? Ilya Oniai-chan. She jumped at me with teary eyes and clung to my body like a koala. Shina came back with more clothes in her arms and starry eyes, which caused Ilya to hiss at her. Ilya, Shah. Rimuru, are you a cat? Shina, Kaya. Ilya Sama. As for the town itself, things are quickly changing. Many monsters throughout the forest not mentioned in the anime have migrated to Avalon. Many humanoid monsters have taken up residence in the newly built residential buildings throughout the town. More non-human monsters have taken up residence outside of Avalon. As a consequence, the magical density of the area has heavily increased, which will only increase over time. Eventually, the lower-ranked monsters and even humans will be unable to live in such an environment. So as a solution, I used creation to make an atmospheric magical draining device. I dumped it in front of Vesta and told him to figure out how it worked and make more. Construction around the town is coming along well. Or rather, it's starting to become fitter to call it a city instead. The high orcs and high ogres are working very hard. I've also made a few hundred golems to help in construction as well. I mainly did it for fun and curiosity. Most of the golems are working with the ogres and orcs in manual labor, but I also gave some to Rigard's son, and the security force was leading. Now you can see 3 meters tall golems posted all around town. The fact that each one looks like a giant moving suit of heavy armor wielding a giant fucking sword and shield does nothing but add to their already intimidating strength. Each golem is made out of an alloy of the strongest materials I could think of, being adamantanium, orichalcum, vibranium, and any other fuck all metal from any anime or movie I saw in my past life. I even added several Nokia phones to the mix. So yeah. Good luck breaking them. The golems are a bit boring though, so I might not make more. But, I digress. Construction. Skyscrapers are just starting to show up now. Although they're only the foundations, it won't be long until we see a fully built one. Trainee voiced her desires to open a bar at the top of one of the tallest skyscrapers, but she's making do with a fancy establishment on the ground for now. Her knowledge of plants is letting her make some crazy delicious drinks, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic. The road leading to Dworgen is also making progress. Foundations of roads leading all over the world are also being made for when we eventually start those. All along the side of the roads, you can see a line of mysterious glowing runes. The runes serve to hide the path from any hostile monster born in the forest while also lighting the way during the night by producing softly glowing motes of light. The runes also reinforce the road and clean it of rocks and leaves daily. More days continue to pass, and nothing exciting happened, is what I would normally say, but something exciting did in fact happen. Or rather than exciting, it's more interesting as it's not something you'd see every day. Shina wanted to test out a new recipe that made use of the meat of a B rank monster that you could find roaming around the forest. Stuff happened and Shina, Cheyenne, Ilya, Makoto and I all decided to take a walk through the forest while searching for it. Makoto, so what exactly are you making? Makoto asked Shina a question. Shina, it's something Rimuru-sama showed me in passing through thought communication. It was called gotcha pork roast. Put simply, it's just potatoes wrapped in bacon. Ilya, oh. I know that one. I saw it on the Food Wars anime. Ilya cheerfully spoke up. Speaking of anime, everyone knows about me being a former human. Well, not everyone, but the top dogs know. Like Benimaru and the other Kijin, Rigard, Kaijin, Trainee, so on so forth. They also know that Ilya is my skill-given physical form, but for all the common people, she's just my adopted little sister. Of course, even though they all know she's my skill, they still treat her like a little sister. Ilya, but we don't have bacon in this world. Rimuru, that dish, huh? True, pigs don't exist here. Did you find a replacement for the bacon yet? Shina, yes, Rimuru-sama. Apparently, ribier meat tastes a lot like bacon. Mikoto ribier? Is that the monster that looks like a giant bear? Cheyenne but it has 2 heads. I killed a couple that wandered near our ogre village with Hakuru, they tasted quite nice. I wonder what dishes I can make with them. As Cheyenne said that, we all had a chill run down our spine. She's a disaster in the kitchen. I once tried giving her the experiences of a master chef, but, well, at least she can now make an acidic slob of poison with more flair and finesse. The trope of kitchen disaster beauty is formidable and not easily broken. Mikoto, that's the one. I remember seeing a couple roaming around a place further north from here. Come on. Mikoto, who was the most recent victim of Cheyenne's cooking, broke out in cold sweat and immediately tried to rush us along. We all continued to talk about various subjects throughout our walk. From food to clothes, random hobbies to how daily work/training is going and things like that. I didn't intervene much and just stood to the side, enjoying the scene of 4 beautiful women talking to each other with cheerful expressions. Though I did make my input now and again. After a while, we reached the spot where Mikoto last saw a ribier, and lo and behold we see a healthy 2-headed nightmare bear that looks like it came straight from Chernobyl. However, what we didn't see was a space fissure splitting open at that exact moment. It only appeared for an instant, so I was the only one that sensed it with my crease of space. Well, maybe Ilya noticed too with her connection to me. Appearing out of that fissure right in front of us was a human male in modern clothing who seems to be around 17 or 18 years of age. He has black hair and black eyes and looks like a Japanese person. He has a face that you just want to punch. He looks around for a bit before quickly noticing the ribier on one side and our group on the other. The moment he saw us, I inwardly shivered as he gave all of us a glance with eyes that said, "Wow, pretty women, monkey brain activate." He gives all of us a shit-eating grin and opens his mouth. "Monkey brain man, hey beautiful girls, is this monster bothering you? Don't worry, I got this. Watch me." He then proceeds to turn around, raise his hand into the air, and create a giant fireball above his open palm the size of a small house. He lowers his hand and the giant fireball slowly descends onto the poor monster. The fireball explodes and completely burns the ribier. Well, there goes our dinner. Monkey Brain Man turns back to us. "Monkey Brain Man, chantless magic, pretty cool huh? If you want, I don't mind accepting you girls into my harem." He talks like he's some kind of big shot. Of course, we all know the real situation. The ribier wasn't any threat to any of us. Even Ilya could kill that monster with just her aura alone. Infinite magicules, remember? Furthermore, we all can use chantless magic. And his magic was shit. Too many magicules wasted, needlessly slow, flashy and big. Furthermore, a ribier has natural resistances against fire, so if he just used a different element he would have achieved the same result without turning it into fucking charcoal. Not only that, although he's acting like it's no big deal, he's nearly out of magicules from that one attack. Cheyenne. Mikoto. Ilya. Shuna. Rimuru. Remember when I said that pigs don't exist in this world? I take that back. And so we all proceed to gang stomp him JoJo style. I made sure to write some temporary runes to transfer any damage we did to him to his soul. This way his physical body was unharmed and we didn't get any monkey blood on our shoes. But before he could die, I stopped everyone and healed him with runes. Monkey Brain Man, you saved me. Why? Rimuru monkey. And then we killed him. We didn't find a ribier after that, I just ended up using creation. I could have done in the first place, but we all wanted an excuse to skip work. Procrastination. The next day, I was hanging out in Trainee's bar lazing around and avoiding work like always. Trainee knows this, but chooses not to say anything. She's a good woman. Suddenly, Universal Perception picks up a mass of magicules quickly heading towards Avalon. Ilya Oniai-chan. Ilya contacts me through thought communication. Rimuru, I know. She's not even bothering to hide her aura, I can easily sense it. Now, how will I deal with this lowly demon lord? Ilya quickly contacts me about the approaching magicule signature. Although we have the same sensory range with universal perception, hers is much more precise than mine. After all, I don't want to be continuously bombarded with unimportant information. However, Ilya, having the computational abilities of Raphael, doesn't have this problem and can easily process the movement of every blade of grass within several kilometers as easy as breathing. And although sensing a single individual rapidly approaching Avalon isn't enough to draw my attention until they're closer, it will be enough if said individual is not bothering to contain their aura a single bit, especially if they have such a large magicule pool. It's like running down the main street of a large city with your fly open. Trust me, I would know. Trainee, something wrong, Sir Rimuru? Trainee, who is standing behind the bar in all her greenness, asks me a question. Rimuru nothing. Just that there's a large mass of magicules quickly approaching Avalon. Slam. As soon as I said that, Trainee slams her hands into the wooden bar top as menacing characters appear out of nowhere behind her. Seeing this, I immediately know where this is going. Trainee, this must be the work of an enemy stand. She makes a beautiful pose emphasizing the menacing characters. From behind her, a ghostly figure of Rigard appears like a stand in another one of his godly JoJo poses. Dear Meat Bun Lord above, I thank thee for this beautiful sight. I shall never regret showing her JoJo. A while later. I'm standing on the hill with a tree and a beautiful sunset view. I'm wearing Shizu's mask with my hands behind my back, unmoving as I stare at the memorial I made in her honor. Although there isn't a sunset as it's currently in the middle of the day, the view is still breathtaking. The hill is quite high after all, and it has a nice view over the entire city. Thankfully people rarely come here, and those that do are only those close to me. There was some terraforming done in this area as well. With Shizu's memorial at the very top of the hill as the center, excluding the west where the sun sets, many wisteria trees have been planted, turning the area into a beautiful and peaceful place. Currently, this place is sealed off entirely with my dominate space skill. I'm not expecting a big fight, but you never know. It's not enough to stop Malim from coming and going, nor do I want it to be, but it should serve as some sort of buffer for any casual attack so the people in the city won't be disturbed. I even took down the barrier covering Avalon temporarily so Malim doesn't fucking obliterate it like my ass on a Wednesday after Taco Bell Tuesday. Boom! A figure crashes into the ground behind me, creating a dust cloud. There's a giant fucking crater too, but let's move on. The impact creates a small gale in the local area, but I remain unfazed, not even looking behind me. The only thing that moves is my clothes and hair. The outline of the figure obscured in the dust cloud stands up and a haughty voice echoes out. Malim, greetings. I am the one and only Dragonoid, also known as the Destroyer, Demon Lord Malim Nava. The dust cloud clears revealing the small figure of a young girl with platinum pink hair tied in a twin-tail fashion with sky blue eyes. Her current attire is also quite scarce, showing off her curves. And do note I am using the word curves very loosely. As if sensing my words, Malim jumps forwards and fucking kills me. Finn. I'm joking. Instead, before she continues her speech that she most likely practiced in front of a mirror for, I speak in a deep calm tone. Rimuru HM, Malim Nava, huh? Good, I've been expecting you. Yosh, I can now cross I've been expecting you from my lines I wanted to say someday list. As a side note, it was number 4. Malim, eh? You have? Malim asks with a tilt to her head, her majestic aura completely gone. I smile under my mask at her attitude, thinking she's a lot like how I pictured her to be. I turn around and spread my arms open, continuing my act of an arrogant genius. Rimuru, of course. I'm making such a racket in this forest, defeating the Orc Lord, killing an officer of a Demon Lord and making a city of monsters. I was thinking one of the masterminds behind the Orc Lord incident would eventually step up, and you, Malim Nava, who seeks entertainment the most out of all the Demon Lords. Well, you can put the pieces together yourself. I'm bullshitting at this point, mainly using my knowledge from the series as a reference for the crap I just spouted. There's no way I would connect the dots myself normally, not when I would think they're barely any of my problems in the first place. I mean, Ilya could, she's a genius after all. My appearance, my attire, my hidden identity, my calm yet imposing tone of voice, as if everything is already calculated and in the palm of my hands. Malim, what the hell? That's so cool. Has completely awed Malim and she's now looking at me with stars in her eyes. Kikakudori. Rimuru. Poo, kukuku. Ahahaha. Finally, I couldn't hold it in anymore and I laughed. Rimuru, sorry, Lady Malim. I don't usually act like that, I just wanted to try it once. Forgive me. I apologize while taking off Shizu's mask and putting it away in my stomach, revealing my smiling expression. I use a formal tone against Malim, not acting too close to her. We don't know each other enough, after all. Rimuru, and so? Why exactly are you here? I'm sure there's another reason other than searching for me. Malim, Well, I also came to say hello, if that's what you're asking. Malim tilts her head again while placing her finger on her lips. I swear I can see a question mark hovering next to her head. Hearing her answer, I once again smile. I open my mouth to speak again, but this time I direct it to the area around me. Rimuru, is that answer satisfactory? You know you don't need to hide, you wouldn't have ever been able to escape her senses anyway. From various hiding spots around the area, like behind that tree, behind the other tree, behind the other tree. I mean, there's a lot of trees in the area. Anyway, from various hiding spots around the area, Benimaru, Soai, Cheyenne, Hakuru and Ranga reveal themselves with Soai and Ranga appearing from the nearby shadows. I was expecting these guys since they attacked Malim in the original series, thinking Malim is a threat to Rimuru and their town. However, I purposely contacted them with thought communication and let them know that Malim isn't a threat, despite her unzipped her overflowing aura. They still wanted to be nearby just in case something happened to me, and I accepted. What I didn't expect was Ilya, Shizu and Makoto also revealing themselves. Though, I made sure not to reveal my surprise. I completely expected this. This is fine. Those three jump down from one of the branches of a tree nearby and land gracefully. Rimuru, what are you guys doing here? I send them a thought communication with genuine curiosity. Ilya, well, I told Makoto that everything was fine, but she wanted to come here anyway. Makoto, well, I was curious about what's happening. Alright. Just curious. Makoto begins to casually answer my question before quickly catching herself and changing her answer. She then nods her head with closed eyes as she crosses her arms, acting like there's nothing wrong. Though her slightly red cheeks beg to differ. So cute. Meanwhile, Shizu just yawns and curls up to sleep on her position on Ilya's head. Malim, ahahaha. Malim laughs at the wary looks they were giving her. Even now, she isn't restraining her aura. Although she isn't blasting it at full power, it's enough to make Benimaru, Soai, Cheyenne, Hakuru and Ranga on guard. Ignoring them, she starts walking in my direction. I don't move and just keep smiling, completely relaxed. I know she won't hurt me. I'm a potential source of entertainment for her, after all. She starts circling me, looking me up and down, even sometimes poking here and there. Malim, this isn't your true form, right? I can't really tell, which is weird, but I know you aren't originally humanoid. Rimuru, you could see that? Color me impressed. True, I'm not a humanoid. It's the effect of a skill of mine. I turn back into my slime form. Rimuru, I'm actually just a slime. Malim, oh. She squats and begins poking me, finding it fun to feel my squishiness. I understand that feeling. I sometimes sit there and poke a clone of mine. Everyone does, actually, whether on purpose or unconsciously. What can I say? Flicks hair backwards, I'm just that irresistible. Makoto, how could you tell something like that? Makoto trusts me enough to not put her guard up against Malim. She just casually strolls up to us, with Ilya next to her, both of them looking at Malim with a curious expression. Malim, fufufu, you can't fool me. My dragon's eye can easily see through things like this. Malim stops poking me and stands up with her hands on her hips while puffing her chest out. I take this chance to jump up into Makoto's arms, to which she easily catches me. Rimuru, anyway, I don't think I've introduced myself. My name is Rimuru, I'm the leader of Avalon, the city you see here. Makoto, I'm Makoto Misaka. Ilya, my name is Ilyasviel, but you can call me Ilya. Ilya jumps forwards and grabs Malim's hands as she introduces herself. It seems she's happy another loli arrived. As for me, this is also good news. The more lolis there are, the better. Fuck, that doesn't sound right. Makoto is currently dressed lightly, in a black t-shirt and hot pants. Ilya is wearing a yellow and purple t-shirt hoodie and a pinkish red skirt. Malim, who has never seen those clothes designs before, had her curiosity piqued. Malim, what are those clothes? And that sparked the beginning of a beautiful friendship between the three. They quickly began talking and, although it's a beautiful sight to see these attractive girls talk to each other, I feel bad for everyone else who is just awkwardly standing to the side. Malim suddenly had a thought and turned to me, who was still sitting in Makoto's arms. Malim, hey, Mr. Slime, did you get weaker? I sensed a lot more power from you during your fight with the Orc Lord. She could sense my power through the crystal ball? Is this another AU thing? I see Ilya shake her head at me, giving me my answer. It seems this isn't an alternate universe thing and I just forgot. Maybe it was only mentioned in passing. Oh well, apparently Malim could use her dragon eye even through the recording of a crystal ball. A bit OP, but I'm not one to talk. Oh well, I have something prepared for this. I spit out a ring and hold it up. It's just a plain silver ring, but it has some special effects. Remove this ring completely obscures my information from any appraisal type skills, magic, items, and things like that. It's also probably why you couldn't tell my race while I was in human form. Milim's eyes widen and her mouth turns into a small O shape. I'm not surprised. Her dragon's eye can see into the truth of things and is quite powerful, so seeing something that can hide things from her is a surprise. Of course, to her, it's nothing but interesting. She's not the type to grow paranoid or wary just because she doesn't know something. I made this ring with my skill. However, something made from creation and rune master wouldn't be enough to hide things from this 1,000-year-old lowly demon lord. However, something special happened to those skills after Manus Iliasviel was born. I was way too concerned with everything else that it completely flew over my mind, but Ilia reminded me of it the next day while we were testing out her capabilities. Long story short, I got 2 new skills. Ahura Mazda, Lord of Creation, and Skathak, Lord of Runes, 2 new ultimate skills were added to my collection. When a skill becomes a Manus, the ultimate skill it was based on doesn't disappear. Rather, it simply stays there, watching, as you completely abandon it, staring. Or it would have happened, but that didn't happen to Ilia, Heaven's Feel. Rather it was broken down and assimilated into my unique skills, creation, and rune master. Since it was an ultimate skill and those unique skills were already close to evolving, both unique skills were able to evolve successfully. Now I can make shit without using materials and just using my magicules. And before you ask, yes, I can make an entire planet. I can also write a rune sequence that is complete bullshit, like permanently making it Wednesday. So making a ring that can block any appraisal attempt is easy. That isn't my only defense against appraisal skills and magics. I've also engraved a rune onto my soul that has the same effect. I provided the rune with Skathak, and Ilia engraved it into me. Not only that, but the important people also have this rune engraved as well. Although the ring does have an appraisal blocking effect, the rune itself is the main force behind it. The reason I have this ring is to conceal my infinite magicules. It was also done to hide Ilia's true identity as well. She is my greatest secret and my greatest strength, being the source of my infinite magicules. And so the best course of action is to hide the fact that I have infinite magicules. Even Makoto doesn't know about it. I want to tell her one day. However, I'm not the type of person to tell her my every secret just because I like her. Only when I trust her entirely would I tell her everything about me. After all, love and trust are different, even though they often go hand in hand. I look up at Makoto, who senses my gaze and looks down. She tilts her head at me in confusion. Makoto, God fucking damn, that's a fucking cutie kids for kipfitsnes dotafaf. Milim looks at me and narrows her eyes. Suddenly, she smiles. This time, it's a bit sinister. Milim, hey, Mr. Slime. I turn my attention back to her. Aramuru, what's up, Lady Milim? I still have to take a formal tone against her. We're not exactly friends yet. Her smile gets wider, showing her teeth. Milim, become my subordinate. Rimuru Kotowaru. Instant rejection. Just like all the girls I asked out. Rimuru Kotowaru. My facial features sharpen and become more masculine. Menacing characters appear behind me, shaking from the intense aura I'm emanating. Elsewhere, in a certain bar, a certain dryad wets herself. Milim, ho? You think you have a choice? Milim slowly releases her own aura. Her pupils shrink slightly, emphasizing her draconic eyes. Her own overflowing aura begins to grow even heavier. Benimru, Soai, Cheyenne, Hakuru and Ranga lower themselves into their stances, ready to react in a single instant. I, however, don't move and continue looking at her as my lips lift into a small smile. Mentally, I'm still in slime form. Rimuru, then, how about we have a small bet? Milim, a bet? Interesting, what's it about? Milim responds to me without releasing her aura, grinning while showing her teeth. I jump out of Makoto's arms and transform back into my human form. Rimuru, you're one of the strongest demon lords, right? Then let's do it like this. You and I will have a small spar. If I land a single blow on you, I win, and you will listen to one request of mine. If you manage to avoid everything I throw, then you win and I become your subordinate. Well. Cheyenne, Rimuru-sama. Cheyenne begins to protest, but I just look at her and shake my head. She closes her mouth and steps back, prompting Hakuru, Soai, Ranga and Benimru to do the same. Milim somehow grins even more and her eyes shine in excitement, a small bit of her fun-loving self showing through again. Milim interesting. I'll do it. Rimuru good. Snap. I snap my fingers and use dominate space on both Milim and myself, shifting us to another space. The scenery doesn't change much, but the ground, trees and sky all begin to fragment slightly and shift. Milim looks all around in excitement and curiosity. Milim, ooh, what is this place? It doesn't feel like a normal teleportation spell, but everything feels different. Rimuru, I call this place the mirror dimension. Think of it as a reflection of the real world, but not at the same time. A copy, so to speak. Anything that happens in the real world happens here, but anything that happens here doesn't reflect back into reality. The perfect battleground, right? Milim is already running around halfway through my explanation, touching and mostly breaking everything. Mirror dimension, a separate space created through my dominate space skill and lots of help from Ilia. Something like this didn't actually exist, rather it's something I created. In fact, if not for my crest of space, I couldn't even dream of making something like this. Well, it's still a bit of a work in progress, so it's a little shaky and too much force can punch a hole and send everyone inside flying back into reality. However, for a small spar, this is more than enough. Milim should understand with her dragon's eye, so she should hold back enough. And yes, I took inspiration from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Moments later, Milim and I are standing over a kilometer apart, staring at each other as if we were separated by just a few meters. I close my eyes momentarily, feeling my connection with Ilia. I talked with Ilia before this all happened just before Milim arrived. This fight was planned. She would stay in the real world and live stream the fight to everyone else so they don't have to worry, and I would just concentrate on Milim. I open my eyes and stare straight at Milim. And then I smile. I'm excited about this, after all. I'm not naive nor am I arrogant enough to think I can fight head-to-head against someone of Milim's caliber only 6 or 7 months after my birth. Maybe I can defend against her into a draw, and no one on this planet can even think of stopping me if I want to run away, but I don't think I can outright win without some lucky break. Rimuru, you ready? Milim, of course I am. Let's get started already. Milim responds with her hands on her hips, standing tall with a battle-hungry grin. It seems I'm not the only excited one. Now, let's see how I fare against one of the strongest in this world. My expression turns blank. I lean forward and push against the ground. Boom! The ground cracks under the pressure and I shoot straight towards Milim, leaving nothing but a blur. The air around me remains undisturbed as I speed towards Milim. My entire body is covered with a silver color aura, being the visual form my space-attributed magicules take. It's a neat trick I picked up. Space shrinks in front of me and air resistance wasn't a problem with this technique. Although I'm already insanely fast as it is, for Milim, I need to go faster. But I also decided to restrict myself in other ways. It won't be satisfying if I just make an unavoidable indiscriminate slash using Yamato, nor will it be as enjoyable if I use my rune, or creation, ultimate skills to make items that turn me into the perfect dragon slayer. Speaking of Yamato, I bring out its familiar blade sheathed in its black scabbard with gold highlights, holding it with my left hand and drawing it out by its handle with my right. I immediately find myself standing in front of Milim and draw out the rest of the blade at her. The edge creeps closer to Milim's neck and time seems to slow down. When it's mere inches from her neck. She smiles. Shing! Yamato cuts the air, missing Milim's neck by mere millimeters. Rimuru, tch. She leaned backwards. Milim, my turn, right? She clenches her hand into a fist and punches it towards my chest. Fast. I teleport behind Milim upside down, once again swinging Yamato at her. As I expected, she also dodges it by ducking. She turns around swinging her other fist at me in an uppercut. Unable to dodge in midair, I once again teleport to Milim's right side, sliding back on the ground. Crack boom. Milim's punch creates a wind pressure not dissimilar to a local gale. All Might, is that you? Rimuru, you're pretty scary, you barely used any force in that, did you? Milim, hee hee dot. Milim turns to me and gives me a cheeky grin at my wry smile. Inhale. I take a deep breath. I'll get a little serious this time. Name, Rimuru. Race, Origin Slime. Protection, Crest of Space. Title, Highest Tier Spirit, Leader of the Monsters, Oniai-chan, King of Avalon. Manus, Iliasville. Ultimate Skills, Beelzebub, Lord of Gluttony, Ahura Mazda, Lord of Creation, Scathach, Lord of Runes. Intrinsic skills, infinite regeneration, universal shapeshift, universal sense, multilayer barrier, enhanced replication, universal thread. Extra skills, Lord's ambition, thought communication, control particles, dominate space, control natural elements. Resistances, cancel pain, resist melee attack, cancel natural elements, cancel ailments, resist spiritual attack, resist holy attack. Equipment, Yamato, Harp, Raphael, Skill Orb. If you want to support me, check out my Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/Kayashin. I tend to polls that decide important plot stuff in my P at Trian. Many thanks to my awesome patrons. Ben Phillips.
If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.